And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Not Mike and Mike Show. My name is Brian Nelson, alongside my co-host, Mike McLeod, and we have a show all about the 2016 NFL Draft. Let's kick things off. And we're going to title this segment the Not Mock and Mock Draft, because for today, this is going to be my co-host, Mock McLeod, and you can call me Todd Mock Shea. So let's get things started with the top pick in the NFL Draft. A lot of activity at the top of the draft with the LA Rams trading up to number 1. Presumably to pick a quarterback. Who do you think the LA Rams are going to pick? They have a choice between Cal quarterback Jared Goff and North Dakota State quarterback Carson Wentz.
Yeah, so Carson Wentz, I really like him. He has had a lot of success, but it has been at Division II football. And I think that just moving to Los Angeles, they need to have a star player who's used to bright lights and big stages in new places. And so Jared Goff, I think, fits the bill. He can stay in California, play in a new city, and it's not going to be as big of a burden for him. So yeah. I go Jared Goff, number 1.
Yeah, so with the first pick in our 2016 NFL mock draft, the LA Rams are going to select quarterback Jared Goff. And like you said, Mike, I believe Jared Goff has just a little bit of those qualities that make him an LA quarterback that Carson Wentz might not have. And really their skill sets are pretty similar, and so Jared Goff will be our pick for number 1 overall. And that means Philadelphia traded up to the number 2 pick to kind of pick the quarterback that LA doesn't. And so do you believe Carson Wentz is the quarterback for Philadelphia?
Yeah, I don't think you go from 13 to 8 to 2 to not pick a quarterback. And you had to get past Cleveland in order to get a quarterback. I think they also want Jared Goff, but they're not going to get him. I think unless you're going to reach for Paxton Lynch, but you could have gotten him at 13.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Carson Wentz, number 2.
And I think it's a better fit for Philadelphia because it's a colder city as well, with North Dakota being a cold state, and hand size was an issue for Jared Goff, and that Carson Wentz has the prototypical hand size, and hand size was a question at the combine for Jared Goff. And in a cold city like Philadelphia, maybe that is a factor that maybe Carson Wentz is a better fit. And last time Philadelphia picked a quarterback that high, Donovan McNabb, and
that's true. And there are less expectations coming from Philadelphia than there are from the Rams, and maybe that's just expectations I'm having for a team that moves to Los Angeles, and I put more weight to that than maybe everybody else is. But Carson Wentz is going to Philadelphia. Philadelphia has never won anything in their lives. Carson Wentz will either succeed or fail, and it's not as big of an issue. So I think he's a low-risk sort of guy.
Yeah. So with the second pick, the Philadelphia Eagles will select Carson Wentz, quarterback. So let's move on to the third pick. We're going to do something a little crazy in the mock draft, and not many people, a little kooky here. We're gonna predict a trade, and that Jacksonville will trade up from 5 to 3 to pick. Who do you believe that they'll pick?
Well, let's go through, and it'll kind of spoil number 5. Yeah. But I think that San Diego wants an offensive tackle, and I don't think anybody else in the top 5 wants an offensive tackle.
Dallas has Tyron Smith, Luke Jokel's with Jacksonville, and San Diego hasn't had an offensive lineman since Marcus McNeil in 2005, and I only know that because of Madden.
Yeah,
I don't know how good Marcus McNeil actually was. So that's definitely
I think that they want Tunsil. We'll talk about that later, and I think they can get them at 5. So Jacksonville moves up because Jalen Ramsey has been linked to Dallas a lot, and I think he's probably the best overall talent in the draft. And Jacksonville, if they want him, which I think they do, I think everybody does really, they're going to have to leapfrog Dallas. And Dallas, I think they have some options, so they're not going to really try to trade up too much. They're in the driver's seat. So Jacksonville trades up, gets cornerback Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, Jalen Ramsey would be an excellent fit with Jacksonville. The tall type of quarterback, that's what Seattle started the trend back when Gus Bradley was the defensive coordinator under Pete Carroll, and with Gus Bradley in Jacksonville, he would definitely love a 6'1", 6'2" cornerback that can run, is athletic, can be the anchor of the defense alongside Prince Amukamara, who they signed in free agency, and Tashawn Gibson to shore up that secondary, really improve a young up-and-coming team. So the third pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars will be cornerback Jalen Ramsey. So you mentioned Dallas. Dallas will be next picking, and they have a lot of options. They have a lot of needs, and Joey Bosa, potentially, Ezekiel Elliott. There's options for Dallas. Who do you believe that Dallas will?
Well, you already mentioned him. I think they go Ezekiel Elliott. I think he's the second best player in this draft. I think he's the best offensive player. And, maybe it's a little bit hyperbole to throw around like once-in-a-generation talent. But this guy really has the tools to really be successful at the next level. And Dallas has already proved that you can have a strong running game with players that have had lackluster careers either before or since. And so with that offensive line, running the ball with Ezekiel Elliott, it takes more pressure off of Tony Romo. And Tony Romo doesn't get his clavicle broken for the 14th time. And I think it just works out for everybody.
But some of the reasons you were thinking is making me believe that Joey Bosa could be the pick. And there's an Arkansas running back out there in the draft in the 4th round, potentially Alex Collins. And if Jerry Jones, if he has an Arkansas running back he can draft, he'll draft him. But
they still could. The 4th round is 2 days afterward.
Yeah, they still could. But I think it really speaks to the talent that we were talking about with Ezekiel Elliott. In a day where running backs are so devalued, even though last year Todd Gurley was picked, 13th?
Yeah.
And you don't see top 10 running backs. Yeah, top 5 even running backs being taken. And it just shows how polished he is and how much of a game changer he could potentially be at the next level. So with the 4th pick, Dallas will, in our opinions, in our Not Mock and Mock draft, will take running back Ezekiel Elliott. So now with the trade that we predicted, San Diego moves down, and you kind of talked about Laramie Tunsil.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to say about the guy. I mean, if you can get a left tackle and you don't already have one, you get one, because you protect what is left of Phillip Rivers' career.
He's got 8 kids to protect, He needs a blindside protector.
So I think you need to be able to protect him and protect the next guy. And so even if Phillip Rivers only has 2 or 3 years left, then you have a guy that's going to hit his prime at left tackle right when you draft a new quarterback that you need to be successful right now.
Yeah,
so.
I think the choice there for tackles is between him and Ronnie Stanley. Tunsil, it really depends on the GM you're talking to, but Tunsil, the only kind of questions I've heard in discussions about him is that he's had a little bit of injury history, and that in his 3 years of starting at Ole Miss, he never finished all games. He missed some time with injuries in all 3 seasons.
Right.
And maybe durability could be the question, but I think for the Chargers and what they need, a true left tackle, I think Laramie Tunsil is the truest left tackle that you can get.
This is the guy that was going to go number 1 until the Titans gave away their first or the number 1 pick. So this is a guy that could have been the top player in the draft. He falls to 5 just based off of needs, not necessarily based off of talent.
Yeah, so now our top 5 set. Let's go to pick number 6. Baltimore Ravens are on the clock. Who do you think Baltimore picks?
So Baltimore, they're kind of in a best player available situation, and I think they're actually going to mess this one up. I think they're going to reach a little bit, and they're going to take Myles Jack. And the reason why they do this is because they want another Ray Lewis, and they think that, Myles Jack, for however long he's going to be in the league, will probably be a dominant force. He'll probably be one of the better linebackers, maybe a Patrick Willis type. Maybe not Ray Lewis because he won't have the longevity, but Patrick Lewis is probably a good comparable player. 8 years, done, see you later. Myles Jack, he's going to be good, but it's just a question of how long are you going to have him for.
Yeah, I think based off of the projections of the top 5, I think Baltimore is in a really nice place in the draft in being 6 and hoping that somebody reaches, somebody screws up. And with the general manager Ozzie Newsome, he's a really good talent evaluator. And I think they're in a prime spot to get a good player. I think that the way things have worked out, some of the players left on the board in offensive tackle, Stanley, Vernon, Hargreaves, Joey Bosa, I don't think those are necessarily scheme fits for Baltimore.
Right,
so
exactly.
Based off of what we've projected, Myles Jack would be the best fit. So that's why with the 6th pick, Baltimore will pick linebacker Myles Jack. Now let's go to my favorite team, San Francisco 49ers. A lot of holes there. Who do you think that they'll pick?
So also in the best player available situation, but with the worst talent evaluators, Trent Baalke is going to somehow allow Chip Kelly to make this decision for him, and he's going to pick an Oregon guy, DeForest Buckner.
Yeah, DeForest Buckner, the pass rusher. I think that's something that the 49ers really missed in Aldon Smith's off-the-field troubles and him being cut from the team and Justin Smith's retirement. Not really too much of a pass rush. Ahmad Brooks was really upset and really unhappy with the team last year, not a very productive player. they do have Aaron Lynch on one side of the ball, but they need another pass rusher. I think Buckner can fill that void left by Alden Smith potentially. So I'm not in love with the pick because Oregon defensive lineman, we've been there, done that with Eric Armstead last year. So it's not the greatest pick in the world, but I think it makes a lot of sense in that he's familiar with Chip Kelly's scheme being from Oregon, and it could be a potential fit there.
And if you can't get anybody in free agency to come play defense for you, you got to make sure that they have to come to you.
Yeah.
You got to go defense with this pick.
Yeah, so 49ers go pass rusher. Let's go now to Cleveland Browns. They traded down from the number 1 overall pick number 2 overall pick down to number 8. Who do you think they pick with the number 8 selection?
I think they wanted Myles Jack, but he's going to be gone at that point in our mock draft. Mess myself up there.
Yeah,
and
mock mache.
I just don't like Joey Bosa. We already had in like episode 2 or something like that the top 3 busts, and I said that Joey Bosa was going to go somewhere where he's not going to be fit, and he's actually not the pick that I'm talking about for Cleveland. Offensive tackle Ronnie Stanley, that's the one I'm going with for Cleveland.
Yeah, they lost their right tackle in free agency, Mitchell Schwartz, and they do have left tackle Joe Staley, who's been a stalwart there for 10-plus years. But they've been talking about potential trading him for multiple picks. They have a new scheme in the front office, which is very questionable, and it's
a
very
baseball guy running football.
Paul DePodesta from the Mets, and he's a very analytic, sabermetric type of guy. So he's of the mindset more picks means more likely to hit on good players, especially deep in the draft. So you gotta believe that Cleveland will use this pick to pick up offensive tackle if they are staying there. That's if they're staying there. I think is very likely with this 8th pick, and that somebody trades up to try and get one of these good players to get Joey Bosa.
Wouldn't it be weird if like Miami traded back for their original pick?
Just that would be the most Miami thing ever, just to change their mind and be like, you know what, we really want Kiko Alonso and Byron Maxwell, but you know, we still want Joey Bosa. So
he just trades everything that the Eagles gave them back for the 8th pick.
Yeah, that'd be the most Miami thing ever. So
oh God.
You hear it here first on the Not Mike and Mike show. Miami trading back up. But no, we're going to go with Cleveland picking Ronnie Stanley. So now Joey Bosa's still on the board. Tampa Bay picking at number 9. But we're not going to go Joey Bosa.
No,
Who are we
I
going to go with?
don't like Joey Bosa. I think I've corrupted you a little bit. So I'm going Vernon Hargreaves, or Graves. But I think he's probably the second best cornerback in the draft. Kind of fits the same bill to an extent. And so you have Jameis Winston on the offensive side of the ball. You have a good offense, really, and you just need to bolster the defense, and not everybody wants to come to Tampa Bay. It's a nice place, but nobody wants to go there to play football. And so you get a cornerback in Vernon Hargreaves that will be able to play for you. Young, good. What do you got?
I think pairing him with Brent Grimes, you get potentially.
Oh God!
I know how you feel about Brent Grimes. He's a productive player, even with all the drama that comes along with Brent Grimes. He's a Pro Bowl type player.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay,
and maybe not gonna hang out with him and learn from his personal example.
You can hang out with him, just you can't hang out with you can't go on a double date with him and his wife.
Okay.
So a weird set of laser tags.
So just a bromance with Brent Grimes. They can be potentially a good duo to build around on the secondary that has been an issue with the Tampa Bay. They haven't really had much of a defense since their Super Bowl days. So I think this is an opportunity to pick the best cornerback available, build a defense to go around that good offense. And I think that's the pick there. So let's go to 10. I think this is the time. We can't be a legitimate sports talk show, whatever you want to call us, if Joey Bosa is not a top 10 pick. So Joey Bosa
to the Giants, that's fine. And it actually confirms my suspicions that he's going to go somewhere where he's not really needed, not really necessary, probably doesn't fit the scheme all that well. You just picked up Olivier Vernon. You signed Jason Pierre-Paul to another one-year deal. And then you go out and you get another defensive end. And so, it probably doesn't make sense. But you wanted him to be in the top 10?
I do.
So
I think we have to have Joey Bosa in the top. I think it's kind of ridiculous if Joey Bosa falls out of the top 10 because he's just too talented and productive a player at Ohio State to not go in the top 10. And I think the Giants, you'd say it's a ridiculous type of situation that he's in. Is not a good scheme fit. I think it's an okay scheme fit because when they were successful and won the Super Bowl with Michael Strahan, they had that NASCAR defensive end where they played Tuck inside at defensive tackle, OCU Minora, Michael Strahan. They had all those defensive ends. You put Olivier Vernon with JPP. Yeah, he's on a one-year deal. I'm going to call it a 9-figure discount. And you put Joey Bosa in there, who can be an inside pass rusher. And
keep going.
Yeah, you can have a pass rush that you were successful with back when Eli Manning won his first Super Bowl, and you could potentially repeat that success with that offense that's been really productive since Odell Beckham was drafted.
All right, fine. Joey Bosa to the Giants.
So I get my wish. Joey Bosa's a top 10 pick. Let's go to number 11, Chicago Bears. New scheme with John Fox. I think we're going to go defense here. Who you got?
You know what? I'm going to defer this pick to you
because
you convinced me of this pick, and I don't think it was anywhere near close. But you, like me with the Giants, thinking that they're going to overextend, you're thinking that the Chicago Bears are going to reach a little bit and pick somebody that probably shouldn't be there at 11.
Yeah, nobody really expected this person to be up in the top of the draft class, but outside linebacker of Georgia, Leonard Floyd, has been climbing the draft boards, and I think really their biggest need is outside linebacker pass rusher because in the 3-4 scheme, you didn't have anybody in Chicago that fit that mold there, being a 4-3 scheme for so long, being in cover 2 defense. With Vic Fangio's defense coming in there, you need an outside pass rusher. You can't just be dialing up blitzes and having schematically have the best pass rush just based off of your blitzes. That's not going to be viable because you take too many risks. You put your secondary in bad positions. If you have a true pass rusher, then you can kind of be a little bit more liberal on defense. And I think the best outside linebacking prospect is Leonard Floyd. So I think they reach a little bit. I think their need is too great not to pass up. And I don't see anybody else on the board that's left that really stands out that says, you need to pick me over Leonard Floyd. So I think they go with the potential of Floyd over any sort of other pick that's left out there.
Do you think maybe they trade back? Because a lot of mock drafts have them going to like Detroit at 17. Do you think maybe Chicago moves back a pick or two and tries to get a little bit more value?
Yeah, I think that's a possibility as well. I think the Chicago Bears, they're not the deepest team either, so they could really use a stockpile of picks and trading back and maybe taking a lesser pass rusher and more of a developmental, like a Noah Spence, perhaps.
Well, I think they could still get Leonard Floyd at like 14 or 15.
Yeah, looking at the board, the only other kind of potential spot would be New Orleans, who's also in need for a 3-4 pass rusher. So that's why I picked Chicago to pick them, just because there's a need right behind them as well. So if Floyd doesn't pick them, then I think he'll land a pick later.
Okay.
And speaking of, I just mentioned New Orleans. New Orleans has the pick right after. They are also in need of a defensive help. Their whole defense was just a sea of touchdowns led by one of the Ryan brothers. I'm not sure, Rob. It was definitely Rob. And so they'll need...
getting cold.
Yeah, and he hired his brother as well.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, so Ryan family reunion. Who do you think the Saints pick with their 12th overall selection?
It's actually a guy I don't know too much about. I haven't done a lot of research on him, but Sheldon Rankins, defensive tackle. Can't even say I like the guy because I just admitted that I don't really know much about him. But he does fit the bill in terms of like they need somebody to anchor that defense, and if you can clog up the middle and make sure that nobody runs on you, then you are going to be in a lot of games.
Yeah, I think they're trying to build it in the trenches going outward. I think Sheldon Rankins can be a nice pair with Cameron Jordan up front and control that line of scrimmage. They don't have the linebackers necessarily, and this draft class isn't really deep in the 3-4 linebackers. So I think with Floyd off the board, I think shoring up that interior line, I think Rankins is the best available. Even though defensive tackle is such a deep position, I think Rankins is the best 3-4 interior lineman that's available. So I think that's a solid pick for the Saints to try and build on the defense, to try and salvage what's left of Drew Brees' career and try and win one more for New Orleans. It'll be a tough task. And so we talked about Miami. They're the next pick. They traded back from 8 to 13. and we've kind of projected them to go back up to 8 and kind of circle the way back around.
So Cleveland picks up. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So Miami, who do you have going to Miami?
So in Miami, I actually really like Shaq Lawson, defensive end. I think that maybe they wanted Joey Bosa, and maybe just through some miracle that isn't you wanting him to be a top 10 pick, he falls to 13. But he's not going to be on the board. Ezekiel Elliott's not going to be on the board. So they have to just go with the best fit and the best talent for that fit. And so Shaq Lawson.
I think Shaq Lawson will also fill a need. We talked about Olivier Vernon going to the Giants. He obviously left the Dolphins. They signed Mario Williams to a 2-year deal, but that's obviously just a stopgap. And if you need an interior pass rusher, I think Shaq Lawson is a really good prospect at the 4-3 defensive end pass rushing position. I think if he had the versatility to play outside linebacker, he could be going a little bit higher, I think, to Chicago. But I think Shaq Lawson is more of a 4-3 defensive pass rusher, and I think that's something Miami needs because they just lost Olivier Vernon. They have a lot of needs, but I think Shaq Lawson is the best available for Miami. And so let's go. We talked about my favorite team. Let's go to yours, Oakland Raiders at 14.
I've been preaching this pick since Todd McShay's 1.0 mock draft, and Mel Kiper hadn't even come out with one. Eli Apple, cornerback. They needed some help, and this was before they got Sean Smith. So they go out and they get Sean Smith, but you still have a gap in that second cornerback slot. And so if you go out and you get Eli Apple, he's kind of the same build, right? He's not Jalen Ramsey, obviously, but he can be a poor man's 14th pick Jalen Ramsey. And so they also worked out Myles Jack and that sort of thing. But I think they went out and they got a lot of pieces on the defense, and that's the one glaring hole, other than maybe an inside linebacker or something like that. Yeah. That's the one glaring hole, is that second cornerback, and they go out and they get Eli Apple.
Yeah, you're kind of alluding to what I was going to talk about. Reggie Ragland is also available to be picked, but I think this is a little high for me. I think he's kind of a one-dimensional player. I think Eli Apple has a better chance to be a big difference maker for the Oakland Raiders, and to pair him with Smith, who you talked about, and they signed Reggie Nelson to shore up that secondary. That was really the biggest issue with the Oakland Raiders. So I really like the pick. Let's
and we discussed maybe they just play it safe and they pick up like Stanley Conklin and they draft
Jack Conklin.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
We might need to change that. But they pick up that guy so that when Donald Penn leaves in 2 years, then they have a replacement. But then you're building for like not necessarily needs or even wants. You're just drafting for depth when you're still a 6-10 team.
Exactly.
So.
That's kind of the point. If Oakland was a 10-6 team and they had a aging left tackle, then maybe you pick up tackle to build around. But I think with the needs that Oakland still has, I think they can use his 14th overall pick to pick Eli Apple. Let's hope he's not a bad one. So we will be back right after a short message with the rest of the draft. Stay tuned.
Hi, everybody. Greg Poff here in the Solano College Sports Network studio to tell you about a great opportunity here at Solano Community College, where we are the only college in the nation to have our own sports broadcasting program. So if you're interested in a career in sports broadcasting, Solano Community College is the place for you. And we offer students training in all aspects of sports broadcasting, whether it's behind the microphone, using a camera, or learning to operate our state-of-the-art TV production system in our newly renovated TV studio, or out in the field covering an actual live Solano Community College sports event. At SCC, our sports broadcasting program is responsible for providing broadcasts of Solano sports events and creating shows to be telecast on Fairfield's Channel 28, as well as webcasts on our Solano College Sports Network YouTube channel and our Facebook page. So if you're interested in taking one of our sports broadcasting courses, you will find them listed in the SCC schedule of classes each and every semester under Communication Studies. Also, by the end of this spring semester, we will have a certificated program in place where you can earn a certificate in the field of sports broadcasting that has you ready and prepared for an entry-level position in that particular career. So come on over, check us out. You can find us in the TV studio in room 121 on the main campus at Solano Community College in Fairfield, California. And remember, here at Solano College Sports Network, it's more than just sports.
It's an education.
And welcome back to the Not Mike and Mike show, to our Not Mock and Mock draft. Let's pick up where we left off, the 15th pick, Tennessee Titans. Mike, who do you believe the Titans will be selecting?
So not Stanley Conklin, but Jack Conklin, offensive tackle, would have been a depth pick for a team that's normally picking at this spot. But this was the team that had the #1 overall pick, and so they need a lot of They have a lot of holes. They need a lot of players, so they need to protect Marcus Mariota going into year two. Sorry. Yeah. So
Jack Conklin.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll save you, buddy.
Woo! I'm drowning.
But
yeah.
I think this is a really solid pickup by them. Having the #1 overall pick, I think the difference between Laramie Tunsil and Jack Conklin is absolutely worth the 5 extra picks that you get trading from 1 down to 15. And Jack Conklin, he can be a solid, he's a kind of questionable left tackle. I think at least he'll be a right tackle for them. And with the 15th overall selection, shoring up the offensive line, helping Marcus Mariota, I kind of at least think that wide receiver could be a potential get to help Mariota get a weapon. But I think the skill set of the wide receivers are a little high for 15. Not much higher, but I think Jack Conklin being on the board, he's the best value. He's the best fit for the holes that Tennessee has. So Jack Conklin, offensive tackle out of Michigan State, is the pick we're going with. Detroit is next on the clock. Who do you believe the Lions will be selecting?
They're going to go with a guy that has a little bit of baggage to him. They're going to go Robert Nemdiche.
Yeah.
Nekomdiche?
No.
That's not Nekomdiche.
Well, Detroit, with picking defensive line with tough names. not
Nadamakin
Yeah.
to Nekomdiche.
Yeah.
So Robert Nemdiche, kind of a weird guy, kind of got a lot of going on. But and you corrected me when we were talking about him last time, but Randy Gregory, kind of the same situation. Really good talent, kind of a lot of baggage. Yeah. But if you have Detroit's front office really work with him and keep him on the straight and narrow, you're going to get maybe a top 5 guy in the 16th pick, and that's something you got to be able to do.
Yeah, that's something that they lost in free agency the last couple of years. Dominic Suh, Nick Fairley. Those are 2 similar type of players to Kemdiche, where he has off-the-field troubles. It's really synthetic marijuana that kind of got him in trouble where
So he's actually going to the Broncos.
Yeah. Yeah, Shane Ray went to the Broncos, so it would work out. But I think the Lions, the need at defensive tackle is the biggest glaring need. We kind of talked about potentially getting a wide receiver as well, because you lose Calvin Johnson to retirement. That's going to be a tough shoes to fill. And Marvin Jones, good solid receiver. I don't know if you're going to replace.
Marvin Jones and Golden Tate are kind of the same guy in my mind.
Yeah. It's kind of like the Patriots having Amendola and Julian Edelman at the same time, or Wes Welker and Julian Edelman.
All 3 of them?
Yeah. It's the same type of situation with the Lions. So they could use a wide receiver, but I think Kemdiche is a type of player that would fit with the Lions schematically with the 4-3 defense and having an interior defensive line pass rusher that they've missed since Suh and Fairley have left.
And we actually have a guy, we'll talk about him later, he's going in the first round in our mock draft, but they might think that this guy could fall to the second round, and I'll get to him when we get to that pick, but just keep that in mind, possible falling.
That's what we in the biz call a tease. So let's go to 17. Atlanta was on the clock with the 17th overall pick. Who do you think Atlanta is going to pick?
First wide receiver off the board, LaQuan Treadwell. Some mock drafts even have him going as high as 7 to San Francisco, but I think you just have too many needs in San Francisco. And, Torrey Smith, he can hold it down. So I think LaQuan Treadwell, he can do a lot. And Roddy White is a shell of his former self. Yeah. I used to have him on my fantasy team in like 2011, but he just isn't the same guy, and you need somebody to take at least the 3rd defender off of Julio Jones. So you pick up LaQuan Treadwell, and you just hope that he can at least spell Julio Jones on the other side.
Yeah, I think Treadwell is a solid pick for Atlanta. The other side of the ball is going to be important to make sure that you don't waste the prime years of Julio Jones, who's become an unbelievable force for the Falcons, and that's what they anticipated when they traded up to pick him with a number 6 overall selection in 2011, I believe. And so you need another player opposite him with Roddy White's decline. You lost Harry Douglas last year to the Titans.
Right, yeah.
You don't have another complimentary receiver.
Hankerson?
Leonard Hankerson, yeah, but he is a cast-off from the Redskins, so really, you really want to depend on that guy? I think when you have a first-round pick and you have your pick of wide receivers, hey, maybe you don't like Treadwell. You want to go with Corey Coleman or Josh Doxson. I think Treadwell, though, is the best receiver, and I think he's a complement to Julio Jones in that he's not this big, deep threat. He's a solid possession receiver, good size. I heard the people comparing to Anquan Bolden.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
So having that sort of possession receiver opposite Julio Jones, I think Matt Ryan would love this pick.
Matty Ice.
Yeah, to have Treadwell join Julio Jones in his ranks. So let's move on to 18, Indianapolis Colts on the clock. Who do you think Indy picks?
I hate the Indianapolis Colts. I'll just be honest. But they had so many issues with Andrew Luck getting hurt last year, and a lot of it was kind of fluky, but I think it makes them think that, Andrew Luck is our guy. And, yeah, he had a bad year last year, and he was hurt all the time, but he is supposed to be the next coming of Peyton Manning in Indianapolis, and we need to protect him. So they go Taylor Decker in the first round.
Yeah, put somebody opposite of Anthony Costanzo. They tried so many times to get a good offensive tackle to try and protect Andrew Luck, but they picked up Gosder Cherilus, who didn't work out in free agency. They eventually released him. So picking up a good pass-protecting offensive lineman, that's the kind of character trait that's stuck out Decker from the other offensive tackles, and that Conklin's more of a run blocker. He's just got that tenacious kind of mindset. But Decker is more of a solid pass protector, and that's what you need when you have a franchise quarterback like Andrew Luck.
And so they're still not going to be able to run the ball. Frank Gore is going to waste away the rest of his career.
Hey, Frank Gore's used to playing on bad teams. He can survive behind bad offensive lines. He'll use that shiftiness and pick up 4 yards, 3 yards at a time.
Yeah.
And just rely if you have Andrew Luck passing for 5,000 yards and have Gore rush for 900.
That was going to be the rest of my statement.
Yeah. I think that they'll take that to protect Andrew Luck. They'll sacrifice Frank Gore's production. So let's stay in the division. Buffalo is next on the clock at 19. Who did the Bills select?
So his brother, Rob Ryan, is going to make this pick. He's going to pick Noah Spence. I don't got a lot to say about it. It's just, another guy that fills a need. Buffalo, we talked about it, and maybe they picked Paxton Lynch because maybe Tyrod Taylor isn't the answer. Mm-hmm. But I think that he did enough in at least week 1 through 5 to make me pick him in daily fantasy. Looking at you, man.
Yeah.
But I think that he's done enough to really cement himself in saying, okay, I'm going to be at least your quarterback for the next year. Yeah. And so maybe they go out and they pick somebody else in the 3rd round or something.
The
Kevin Hogan, or who cares? But Noah Spence, I think, is going to be a guy that can make a difference on your team.
Yeah, especially that's pass rush that's been so missed since Mari Williams' production kind of fell off. Pairing him with Marcel Darius up front, Kyle Williams, they have a solid up front. And that 3-4 defensive scheme you need outside pass rushing is kind of the theme we've talked about so far with the Bears, with the Saints. You're looking for edge pass rushers. Spence comes with a lot of baggage, but if there's somebody who can maybe get to him, maybe Rex Ryan's kind of bravado and just his passion for the game will get Spence invested in the defense, and you get the most out of a potential pass rusher that maybe somewhere else wouldn't be able to get that kind of production. So Noah Spence to the Bills. Again, back going to stay in the division. Oh, I was wrong when the Colts and the Bills are not in the same division. Now we're going to stay in the division. Bills, Jets. Jets at number 20. Who do the Jets pick?
So the Jets have this weird thing where they made it to almost the playoffs and they were 1 game away, and so they have this 20th overall pick and they don't have a quarterback. And so they...
The Boston Celtics.
Yeah, oh my God.
Of the NFL.
They just lost by 27. It was bad, man. So they're still a good team. They have a lot of good pieces. They just need a quarterback. And so they're going to go Paxton Lynch. And whatever works out with Ryan Fitzpatrick, even though they say, sure, we'll guarantee all the money in the world, we'll give you the starting position, 2-year deal. And all right, cool. Ryan Fitzpatrick's been on 15 teams in 7 years or whatever, so he'll take that deal eventually. And then Paxton Lynch will be ready to go. He's 6'7". He's just got all the physical tools. It reminds me of Ben Roethlisberger. He's just going to be a guy that you can't bring down. He had Memphis in the top 15 AP polls for most of the year, and he was playing in Memphis. So Memphis hasn't done anything basketball, football, or otherwise.
Yeah.
So Paxton Lynch, he's a guy that can make a difference. He can throw darts, and he's a big guy. He's going to be hard to bring down. And they're going with him.
Yeah, I really like that scenario where you bring back Fitzpatrick on a short-term deal. He's not going to get the money he's asking for. He'll eventually realize that. He'll come back down to market value. And I think after the draft, not a lot of quarterback holes will be left open because you'll draft kind of guys in the second, third round, the Hackenbergs, the Cardell Joneses of the world, and you kind of feel good about that going forward. So you don't want to waste all that money and years that Ryan Fitzpatrick really wants. So I think Fitzpatrick will go back to something he's comfortable with, but on a short-term deal. And that's really why Paxton Lynch isn't a top 5-10 quarterback, is that he just needs more development than the top 2 quarterbacks, Jared Goff and Wentz, even though they need development too.
I think Carson Wentz needs probably the most development out of all of them, and he won 4 championships in 4 years. So,
but yeah, so I think Paxton Lynch, though, going there. Sorry, Bryce Petty, who was your 3rd-round pick last year and going to be the quarterback of the future. But I think Paxton Lynch being there.
Geno Smith?
Oh, Geno's going to be out of there once Paxton Lynch gets drafted.
Yeah, all of the leverage that Ryan Fitzpatrick has in the situation goes out the window as soon as a quarterback gets called in the draft for the Jets. Whether it's tomorrow, Friday, maybe they pick up like Kevin Hogan in the 4th or something. Like, it doesn't matter. They're going to pick a quarterback because they just don't have any options. So eventually, like, because they're the Jets and they actually play in New Jersey, they're just going to be just prideful and just be like, you know what? I don't want to give you the money. We'll go with
Brian Hoyer, who's a free agent, and have him be our starting quarterback for
and
this
you'll go
13.
3-13, and it'll be great.
Yeah.
And then you'll be the Jets again.
And then you get Rosen out of UCLA or Deshaun Watson out of Clemson. But that's another show. Let's move on. 21 overall pick is Washington. Who does Washington pick?
So the Washington football franchise.
Yes.
They don't have a lot of holes, really. I think they're actually a pretty good team. And you do have a quarterback in Washington. And you get rid of RG3, so you have technically less options. But you don't really need to go there. So they're not too broken up about the fact that Paxton Lynch is gone. They're going to go linebacker, and I think they're going to get Reggie Ragland. And that just fill-in needs. It goes through all of the – you go through the checklist, and he marks all the checks that Washington needs to be successful.
Yeah, I think the only other spot I see is safety. I believe they cut Deshaun Goldson after him having a really productive year. They have a safety spot open that there's a safety on the board, Carl Joseph. But I think Reggie Ragland has fallen too much. I think Washington, like you said, doesn't have a ton of holes, so they go best value here. And the best value fills a hole for you. So I think it's the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Ragland will improve that defense.
Yeah, like if there were 3 picks later, they'd pick Carl Joseph, but they're right where they are.
Yeah. So they stick at 21, pick the linebacker Reggie Ragland out of Alabama. Now let's go to 22, Houston. Houston surprised a lot of teams with Brian Hoyer and company, and they made a playoff run with DeAndre Hopkins. Who did they pick?
So this is the tease that we were talking about. Remember that? This is the guy that I think could have fallen into the 2nd round, Josh Doxson. And I'm not too high on him. He has all the physical tools. I watched that game where he went for like 500 yards and like 6 touchdowns. I don't remember what the actual stat line is. I'm just making that up. Yeah. But he had that great game that they scored.
He didn't have 500 yards, Mike?
He might have actually had like 450.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, don't get smart with me, fella. So it was a game where it was like 56-49 or something like that. And then the next game, the over-under was set at like 92, and then they scored like 4 points or something like that. So it was a bad game. Yeah. So, like, the jury's just still kind of out for him on me, but I think that Houston needs somebody that they can keep as a second wide receiver. They didn't really have much outside of the one guy, and so whoever, I mean, is they just got a quarterback. I'm blanking on his name.
Oh, Brock Osweiler?
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, you finally have a quarterback that should be healthy enough that kind of reminds me in a lot of ways of Paxton Lynch, just big physical guy, and he checks all the boxes in terms of like what you need out of a quarterback. He needs more than one option to throw to, and so you go get Josh Doxson, a bigger receiver that can go up and get the ball.
Yeah, I think they have Cecil Shorts, who was productive in Jacksonville. He's a slot receiver. He's not going to be your difference maker opposite of Hopkins. And they drafted Jalen Strong last year, who didn't really pan out. They didn't get a ton of opportunities.
I think Jalen Strong could actually still be a good pick, but I think that you have to go a wide receiver. You can't put all your eggs into the Jalen Strong basket.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty risky. And I think all the wide receivers left at this point have their flaws and have their development. I think they're really similar to the quarterback situation in that whoever you pick, you're just banking on the upside that they will eventually become really good pros. And I think Doxson is a good fit here with the Texans. So let's go on to pick 23, Minnesota Vikings. Who did the Vikings pick up?
So they're going to get Darren Lee, another linebacker. There's a lot of linebackers going in the first round this year. And Darren Lee was really a guy that was linked to a lot of teams in the low teens. And so at this point, Minnesota just goes, we're pretty good.
Yeah.
We still got AP. We got a couple of guys on offense that are willing to do things for us. And so they go best player available, Darren Lee.
I really like their defense as well. I really like Harrison Smith as a safety in the back field. And I think the news of Chad Greenway, he's announced that this is his last year. He's going to retire after this year. You pick Darren Lee up, put him on the opposite side of the ball. You have two linebackers who can stay in 3 downs and cover, and I think that's really important in today's NFL. And once Greenway leaves, Darren Lee can assume that sort of leadership position that Greenway's had with the Vikings for so long. And plus,
he kind of reminds me of Manti Te'o.
Who, Darren Lee?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's really an undersized guy. He was a running back in college, and they converted him to a linebacker, so he's not the big, bulking bruiser. He's really that kind of tweener where he's kind of got the safety build, but he's got the open field coverage ability that so many teams like. I think in our draft, he kind of fell just because of the needs of some teams kind of glared a little bit brighter than them. I think Atlanta is a team in 17 that we talked about, but I think Treadwell, I think the opportunity to pick him to pair with Jones is too great to risk a linebacker. Do you want an explosive offense, or do you want a solid linebacker? I think the offensive way is the way to go.
And I think that you can still have an explosive offense if you go more into the read option sort of thing, and you kind of take the reins off and you let Minnesota be Minnesota.
Yeah, I think the other potential here for Minnesota is wide receiver. A lot of drafts I've seen have back-to-back-to-back wide receivers taken,
God, no.
and I just
can't let it happen.
Yeah, so
you pulled the Joey Bosa. I'm pulling Darren Lee.
So we're breaking up this wide receiver parade, but let's get the parade back into motion with 24 at Cincinnati. We talked about Marvin Jones leaving. Mohamed Sanu went to Atlanta to fill in for the void there. Cincinnati has a big gaping hole at wide receiver. Who do they pick?
So they're going to go Coleman, and they would have gone Fuller if Minnesota goes Coleman, and the jury's obviously still out on all of this. We don't claim to be professionals, but they're going to go wide receiver. So in our mock draft scenario, they're going to go Coleman because he's better than Fuller. And they'll go Fuller if Coleman's gone, and they'll go the next guy if Fuller's gone. They're going to need a wide receiver, and they're going to go Corey Coleman.
Yeah, out of all the receivers that we talked about, I really like Coleman the best. I think he has the most upside, but I think he's really, really risky. I think, kind of compare him last year, Devin Smith with the New York Jets was kind of somebody who was talked about a lot of, like, he's a burner, he's a home run hitter, and then you didn't hear from him at all in his rookie year. Tavon Austin's another guy who was really highly picked.
Tavon.
And all the speed, breakaway ability. He kind of was more productive this year, but it's just taken him a while. Corey Coleman has that breakaway speed, that home run threat that not a lot of wide receivers can possess just naturally. With Baylor, he had so many touchdowns, and they had so many quarterback injuries. They had so many season-ending injuries, and he was productive with every single quarterback. He might want to go to the Texans with the number of Texans. He would be productive there. He's used to having 5 quarterbacks. But I think if Cincinnati can pick up Corey Coleman, I think that's a solid pickup for the Bengals. Now, let's stay in the division. Pittsburgh Steelers are up next. Yeah, I'm positive AFC North. I'm smart, folks. 25, who do the Steelers pick up?
So they're going to go a guy we already talked about, could have been linked to Washington, Carl Joseph. We didn't talk about this, but it just came to my head that Cincinnati lost Reggie Nelson, and they could go Carl Joseph as well. But I think that Pittsburgh needs a big bruising secondary, and when they were the most successful is when they had Troy Polamalu just running all over the field. And Carl Joseph probably is not going to be that guy, but he's going to be the closest you're going to get. And so you're not going to find a guy in the 5th round that's going to be able to be a Troy Polamalu. And so you got to make an attempt with Carl Joseph.
I think the option here really is the secondary, and you have a couple corners on the board. Mackenzie Alexander is really raw out of Clemson, has a lot of athletic ability, but he might be the first cornerback taken in the 1st round who has 0 interceptions in his career. That's an amazing stat, in my opinion. The other guy is William Jackson III, but I think Carl Joseph's ability to fit into a physical-style AFC North defense, I think that's what sets him apart from the 2 cornerbacks. And that, having Polamalu retire, you have Mike Mitchell fill in for him, and he's in his 30s. He's really just a stopgap type of player.
They need to get young.
They do. They need to get young really quickly, and I think Carl Joseph at the safety position can be an anchor for a defense that is searching for their identity back and being that physical steel curtain. So let's go now to 26. Speaking of really tough defenses, Seattle is on the clock for us. Who do you have for Seattle?
You know, I'm just going to say the name, and I'm going to hand it over to you because you have this weird crackpot theory that you're going to talk about, maybe with a running back. So I'm just going to say, A'Shawn Robinson, what do you got?
Oh, A'Shawn Robinson's a great, big, physical guy. Like, you look at his picture, and I can't believe he's younger than me. Like, he's younger than me by a lot, but he's just such a hulking man. And I think he fills in a big need at defensive tackle with Brandon Mebane leaving in free agency to going to San Diego. But my conspiracy theory is that they pick another Alabama player, and that being running back Derrick Henry.
God, no.
I would love to see Marshawn Lynch be retired, and they pick up the most physical back in the draft to replace him immediately with Derrick Henry. Did you see the picture of him standing next to Eddie Lacy? He dwarfed Eddie Lacy.
Yeah.
And to have a
lot of people dwarf Eddie Lacy, let's be honest.
But he looked big and physical, and I think that's the point. And Thomas Rawls is a physical runner, but is the small stature, so you have more than one running back in today's NFL, and Fred Jackson's on his last legs. You've got to think eventually he has to retire.
He's got like 8 legs.
Yeah, he's 35 and he's still running strong, but that can only last so long. Thomas Rawls was injured last year, so we don't know his productivity long term. Do you really want to invest your entire team in an undrafted rookie? Yeah, it worked out for Arian Foster, but having a running back like Derrick Henry, and with Seattle picking so low in the draft every single time, is he going to last to the bottom of the 2nd round? I don't think so. So Henry, I think, could be a play here at 26.
I think he'll be available at the end of the 2nd round because you go through the list of teams that still need a running back. And like Oakland technically needs a running back, but they also had like the top AFC rusher last year, so I don't know exactly where that comes from.
But just looking at the Giants, they didn't draft Ezekiel Elliott in our draft. They could pick him up. You also look at a team like Cleveland; they can always use anybody.
They just need players to don the uniform.
We talked about Indianapolis with Frank Gore and him retiring. So you see a lot of teams that
I feel like it just could be another Trent Richardson.
That is the danger, and
I'm actually not too big on Alabama running back.
Yeah, exactly. Nick Saban runs them into the ground so much. He had like 40 carries in a game this year, and he just gets run ragged.
I think he had for the season like 386.
Yeah, that's more than any NFL player.
Yeah, I think he had almost as many carries as Steph Curry had threes in the season.
Oh man.
So I mean, just to put it in comparison, he's only going to blast until he's like 26. So, you know, perfect. Another running back that retires way too soon.
But hey, if you get him for 5 years, Seattle wins, a couple more championships with their defense and Russell Wilson in his prime.
And then you ship him off to Buffalo.
Exactly.
And reverse of what happened.
Reverse for Lynch. So Seattle, we're going A'Shawn Robinson though, kind of upstage that pick. I think that's a solid pick for the defensive line. And I think defensive line, we talked about a lot of defensive linemen. That's the real depth of this draft. Anybody could pick a defensive lineman and have a solid pick. Next on the clock is Green Bay with the 27th pick. Who do you got?
So at this point, all of the cornerbacks started to get a little muddled.
Muddled.
Thank you. Muddled for me. So you said William Jackson III. I'm interested to see what you have to say about him because, to me, nobody really stands out more than the other guy.
Yeah, I'm honestly going based off of the reputation I've heard and just the fact that Mackenzie Alexander, to me, is just a little too raw to be in the first round. And to me, it's just the best value one, and I think it's the biggest need. They lost Casey Hayward in free agency. I talked about a lot, is that really the draft can be your way to lose to make up for your losses in free agency, and Green Bay really needs to make the most out of their picks because they don't sign anybody in free agency. They signed Jared Cook this year, and that's the last person they decided has Julius Peppers.
Yeah,
that's amazing to me, and that they built this dynasty. Not dynasty. They just built this really solid franchise base off of just draft picks.
Playoff dynasty.
Yeah, dynasty. I just imagine multiple championships over and over. But they just built this really perennial powerhouse. Every year they're a contender, and I think William Jackson can fit into the mold of a Green Bay Packers defense.
And when we're looking at it, we also have 4 names in front of William Jackson III that all get taken, except for, of course, Mackenzie Alexander.
Yeah, I think in an ideal world, they'll like Reggie Ragland to drop to them because they really want to have Clay Matthews be a pass rusher first and foremost. But just because of the needs of the defense, he's a team player, and he played a lot of snaps inside linebacker. They managed to pick up Ryan, I think, in the 3rd or 4th round last year, middle linebacker that really blossomed to be stalwart in the 3-4 defense, but it's a 3-4 defense, so you need 2 middle linebackers. So unless they get one in the 1st round, you can potentially get one in the 2nd or 3rd, but I think if Reggie Ragland drops there, he would be.
And Green Bay's not a team. I don't even know if they signed anybody in free agency.
Yeah, just Jared Cook.
Just Jared Cook. Yeah. So they signed Jared Cook, and so they don't do anything in free agency. They're probably not going to be moving up in the draft or anything. They're just going to take what they have, move on with it, and they're going to pick whoever is available.
Yeah, and just have a bunch of
27th overall picks.
Yeah, and have a bunch of no-name wide receivers once Jordan Nelson gets hurt. And
oh, God. Don't remind me.
Aaron Rodgers can throw the...
He was my #1 pick last year for fantasy.
The Aberdarises of the world.
Oh, my God.
Hail Marys, though. That was exciting to
I
hear
could
no-name.
catch a Hail Mary from him. I just have to
You could. Like, look at the size of Mike. Like, just throw it up. Oh, see, he goes out of camera frame. So just throw it up to Big Mike, and Mike comes down with it.
Did you see the hype tape for LaQuan something or other? The 400-pound tight end.
McGowan. Yeah.
LaQuan McGowan, and he's like, you just see him as like a fullback, and he just runs some dude over. I would love. Green Bay actually picks LaQuan McGowan.
Yeah, 400-pound tight end, just breaking history, breaking linebackers, all sorts of
breaking his leg.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. But
no, yeah. I'm joking.
Obviously.
It's not going to happen.
Let's move on to Kansas City at 28. Kansas City, a playoff team. Who do you think they picked to try and build on the playoff run?
So if Noah Spence was here, they picked Noah Spence, but he was a guy that already had dropped too far in our draft. So they're going to go wide receiver and give a couple more options other than just Jeremy Maclin. I mean, this is a team that's only 2 years removed from having the wide receivers get no touchdowns in the entire season. And so, yeah, you're stacked with Travis Kelce at tight end. You have Jeremy Maclin. You need another guy. And so they're going to go Will Fuller.
Yeah. I think somebody that they drafted last year that stepped up was Conley, the wide receiver out of Georgia in the 3rd round. Kind of stepped up late, but he's, again, a possession receiver. Will Fuller is one of those deep threats that you have. And Andy Reid, what was he successful with later in his career? Jeremy Maclin, Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah.
So if you project Will Fuller to the next level, maybe you play Conley right now and develop Fuller over time, and hopefully
maybe make Fuller like a slot receiver. or something.
And just have Alex Smith throw deep balls, but that's the shaky part.
That's the funniest thing you said all night.
Yeah. So Alex Smith,
and you said 9-finger discount earlier. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Will Fuller being the deep threat, I think that's a good fit for Kansas City. But I think also outside linebacker, pass rusher, they could really use one because of Houston's injury in the offseason. That's really going to affect them. And Tamba Hali is aging. He's not going to last forever. If somebody falls to them, I think they're in the position at 28 that they hope somebody falls to them. But if not, I think they help the offensive side with Will Fuller. Now let's go to the Arizona Cardinals at 29. It actually would have been the New England Patriots at this spot, but they, of course, because of Deflategate, no first-round pick. So let's go to the Cardinals. Who do the Cardinals pick up?
So they're going to be boring because Arizona is. But this is a team that was supposed to be the best team in football. And so they're just going to go for a guy that kind of fills a need. But he's a center. His name is Ryan Kelly, and he's just going to, be another piece to that championship-worthy puzzle.
Yeah, offensive lineman, center.
Woo! Yeah, like
exciting.
The only people I care about in the offensive line is the left tackle.
Yeah.
And even if we're talking about a right tackle, I just pretend that he's a left tackle so I can get excited about him. I can't get excited about a center.
So let's move on, folks. Number 30, Carolina Panthers. Who does Cam Newton? They lost Josh Norman, obviously, because of the franchise tag being rescinded.
Yeah.
So they could use a cornerback. Mackenzie Alexander still on the board. Who do you pick up?
I'm going to go defensive end. And you saw that in the Super Bowl, they couldn't get a lot of pressure on Peyton Manning, who had one of the worst offensive lines in the game. And, I mean, this is the same team that lost to the Oakland Raiders in the same season. And so you need to get better at your pass rush. You are going to get better with Kelvin Benjamin coming back, and you were in the Super Bowl. So you're going to go Kevin Dodd, defensive end, to try to bolster that defensive pass rush, just to try to get some more pressure, take some pressure off of whoever Josh Norman's replacement's going to be.
Yeah, and I think that's the way to go, definitely. Charles Johnson being an aging defensive pass rusher, I think I might be imagining things, but I think he might have left the team in free agency. If not, and he's still there, he's not going to last there for very long.
Right,
so
yeah.
You need a defensive end. Jared Allen just retired for them.
Jared Allen.
Yeah.
He actually got traded to Chicago for 3 games and then retired.
It was opposite.
Opposite? No.
Yeah.
This is why he makes the big bucks.
Yeah. Jared Allen got traded to the Panthers, and he needed to play in the Super Bowl because that was his last chance to win the Super Bowl. And Thomas
Davis. That's right. We had that whole conversation.
Yeah, Thomas Davis with his football stapled arm. They try to do their best to beat Peyton Manning, but they needed a pass rush. I think Kevin Dodd's a real prospect. He really stood out during the national championship game. Everybody was thinking Shaq Lawson, coming off that knee injury that he was having. But Kevin Dodd made a lot of plays, a lot of tackles for loss. So his upside in that national championship game, I think, brings him into the first round.
Exactly.
And you get a pass rusher. So last pick is the Denver Broncos, the defending Super Bowl champion. Who did they pick up?
So we had them slotted in for Noah Spence for the longest time.
Yeah.
And then we go, oh, yeah, we already had Noah Spence going somewhere else. So they're going to go to a guy, I can't even pronounce his name. You told me to pick him.
Yeah.
Jermaine Ifedi.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Ifedi Wap. All right. So I think Denver, their biggest need, obviously, is the offensive line. Ryan Clady gets traded away. He's not going to be a left tackle, but he's going to be a guy.
Not excited.
Huh? Yeah.
He's not going to be a left tackle.
Yeah.
I'm not
So
excited.
Mike's not excited. How can you not tell by that face? But Ifedi is not going to be a left tackle, but he can be a right tackle or a guard. And those kind of guys that are swing position guys, in the 32nd pick, I think that's a pick that when you need so many holes on the offensive line, he can fill in somewhere. Not necessarily the pick that is going to make a lot of splashy news in headlines. But
or the Broncos trade the 31st overall pick to the San Francisco 49ers for Colin Kaepernick and their second-round pick. So they only move up like 7 spots or whatever. But then the Niners pick somebody up at that spot.
Do the Niners pick Ifedi? Because I would hate that. I would absolutely hate that. They would really need I think if that was the scenario, they would have to love a quarterback that's not been taken yet. And if Connor Cook is that quarterback, officially, I'm not a 49ers fan anymore. No way, no how is Connor Cook my quarterback.
It's not. It's still soon enough that you have time to jump on the Raiders bandwagon. It's not quite full. At the end of the year, I think this is the last year. I think the Raiders should go into the playoffs. So you got the last chance to switch over to the other side of the bay.
Yeah,
or the other state.
Will you extend a hand to me on the bandwagon?
You know, I will try, but I am driving the entire train.
Yeah?
So until they move to Las Vegas, I am a Raiders fan.
Okay. So that is our mock draft, folks. We hope you enjoyed all of our picks. Some of them, hopefully they pan out for our sake, but odds are they're probably
and
not.
Mel Kiper don't know exactly what they're doing either, and they get paid millions of dollars. We do it for free, so it doesn't matter what we think.
Yeah, so thank you for tuning in to the Not Mike and Mike Show. We hope you enjoyed it. For Brian Nelson, that is Mike McLeod. Thank you for watching.